All right, today we're talking about Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. That's the title, right? I couldn't remember if it was Nausicaä in the Valley of the Wind or Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never seen, even though this isn't technically, how do you say the studio's name? Please, I've said it two different ways.
Now you're making me authoritative on it.
What are you talking
I say
about?
Studio Ghibli.
Ghibli.
That's
okay.
how I've heard it pronounced. I know that there are people who pronounce it differently. I confess I don't know why.
Okay.
You're putting me on the spot. I should have done that research
look,
before
this
exact second.
No, I just thought you were an authority on everything regarding this because this was your idea.
Yes. This is the beginning of a project that we're starting, in which we're not necessarily going through every Studio Ghibli film, as much as we're going through every Studio Ghibli film that Miyazaki directed himself. Those are generally considered to be the best ones. So we're hitting the highlights of Studio Ghibli's catalog. We'll go through it at a semi-regular schedule from here on out. We're starting with Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind, which technically speaking is not a Ghibli movie.
Right.
Technically. Right. It's written and directed by Miyazaki. He also wrote and directed the manga. So this is adapting a manga work that he had created himself for a magazine a little bit before this. And then it was only after this film, and we can talk about that in future podcasts. We'll save it after this one.
Sure.
But he then went on to take an important developmental role with Studio Ghibli and getting that moved along to the company that we know it as today.
Yeah.
So Nausicaä in the Valley of the Wind is his first go at a story that's uniquely his. He's done stuff in the past. He's adapted other people's work. He did have a director's credit before this doing a Lupin film. But again, this is something that he wrote. It's a manga he wrote. He drew it. He directed it. And so now he's adapted it into a film. And so that is where we are starting our journey through his filmography today.
Yeah.
I've seen the film before. I really like it, but I like a lot of the Studio Ghibli films. I don't think you've seen any Studio Ghibli films.
I think I saw like just in my periphery, I've seen Ponyo on a shelf somewhere.
That sounds about right.
But other than that, I haven't watched any of these movies.
I don't think either of us have seen movies.
I've seen movies?
I don't think
Hold
so.
on.
I think both
Hold
of
on.
us
Like in general?
on a steady diet of
Star Wars?
Of Pixar and Star Wars from 8 to 80.
Well, yeah, because this is one of the highest regarded animated movies of all time.
Yeah,
from what I've read. And I've only heard about it from you. That's the only. No, that's not true. There's other people who've seen.
This is the start of watching actual movies.
Yes,
this is for you.
Yes,
real films.
For me, now you've moved from we haven't seen movies to for you.
It was a subtle shift. I'm glad you picked up on that.
I hadn't seen Rocky, so I can't really.
That's true.
I can't really say anything.
You hadn't seen Rocky. You hadn't seen Nausicaä.
You hadn't seen Hunger Games. It's not as much of a classic, but it was
films. Those are classic books.
Okay,
it's different.
Yeah. Okay.
It's different.
I'll take the heat on this one.
I say Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. People think, oh, the movie. I say Hunger Games. People think, oh, the book.
I think, oh, the movie. Even though I read the books, because they're making more. They're making more movies, and people are more excited about the movies than the books. So culturally speaking,
you're aware they made more books also.
I
right?
know, but more people are more excited about the movies than the books that are coming out.
Well, okay, that's fair.
Now
that's fair.
I'm not talking to hundreds of people, so
that's true.
So I could be wrong about that.
And one thing in your defense, to play devil's advocate for a second.
Oh, because it's the wrong position, but I'm going to play the advocate.
I was subtle. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah, I did. I'm learning. This is a learning experience all the way around.
There are, technically speaking, more Hunger Game films than there are Hunger Game books.
That's true.
So
that's absolutely true.
From a certain point of view,
forever now.
If I was like a politician trying to spin this, the books are statistically insignificant because they're in the minority.
They are in the minority. You're absolutely right.
And if I was catering to the majority, I would cater to the Hunger Games films. Which technically, now that I think about it, is what we did because we were talking about the movies.
We didn't talk about the books. I tried. I hadn't read them in forever, but we were talking about the films. But anyway, yeah, this is a part of the reason why we wanted to start this is I wanted to start is to watch more movies, and this was a big hole in my movie watching journey of there's this whole studio over here that like a lot of people have watched and is really highly regarded, and I've never watched any of their films. So I was excited to get started.
What are your initial impressions watching the film?
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the movie was about. I think I had seen the trailer a long time ago. First thing I thought of was it's a beautiful film.
Yes.
It was made like what 42 years ago, 40 something years ago.
Yeah. 1980s.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
No, it was a really beautiful film. The world building is really nice. They have no problem taking you to a million different places.
Yes.
And all this is hand drawn. So that's another layer of it, having a bunch of different sets and a bunch of different animated stuff or whatever is hard. But whenever it's all hand drawn, all the designs, all the set pieces, all the backgrounds, there's a lot of different important sets in this movie, and they're all really detailed. And I thought the story was good.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very theme heavy film.
Absolutely.
The characters are very much present, but they're rooted in the history of the world that they're in. And I thought they played into that really nicely. I don't know how widely known these movies are, so I don't know if you should give a overview of what the film's about.
I can do an overview. I'd say they're better known now than they were probably 10 years ago. There's a big resurgence of them, maybe just popularization of them, I feel like, in the West. I guess just an overview of the film as a whole. So the film's called Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. She is the princess of this kingdom on Earth. So about 1,000 years before the plot began, human society as we know it obliterated itself through these nuclear warriors, essentially. They're like walking atom bombs, blew up the world. And now 1,000 years later, humanity is rebuilt, but they're in a more primitive, feudal kind of stage. And so the story takes place in the valley. So nuclear fallout, it's polluted the environment. So most of the world is uninhabitable. This kingdom, it's by the sea. There's a perpetual wind. It blows away toxins and fungi and spores away from the population, which makes it livable. And the story takes place in which one of these ancient nuclear atomic warriors is rediscovered by a hostile kingdom. And then there is kind of a game of intrigue where different kingdoms and different factions vie for control over this nuclear warrior to dominate other kingdoms and to dominate the environment as well. So it sounds like it goes one direction. It's a little bit less of something like Game of Thrones than it might initially appear. It's very much more centered on humanity's relationship with the environment, how they relate to people that are unlike themselves. Yeah, it's a really strong film.
Yeah.
It's only about 2 hours long. It feels like it's a 4-hour film.
Oh, like it, and this isn't in a bad way, but I would check how far I had gone into it. I'm like, I'm only 45 minutes in.
Yes.
And you're hit with, because they do a little prologue, and you have Nausicaä whenever she's finding the, what do they call those monsters? Ohms?
Yes.
Is that what they call them?
They call them ohms. Yeah.
Ohms, yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's having an inner dialogue and she's saying it out loud. So you're getting a lot of the world's information through stuff like that. Where was I going with that? I can't remember where I was going with that.
We were talking about the film. It crams a lot.
Yeah, it crams a lot in, and you're dealing with not just the world and not just the history, but you're also dealing with the themes.
Yeah.
You're dealing with, essentially nuclear war has wiped this thing out. And she brings up pollution a lot. You're bringing up how the toxic jungle and all the creatures within it have kind of evolved to defend against humans doing something like this again. This is a man-made apocalypse. And so you're dealing with all that, and you're with this girl who's just purity in its purest form.
Yeah.
She's believing the best in people. She's trying to coexist with the insects and the creatures. She's trying to defend the toxic jungle, not just because of the jungle, but because of what it might do.
Yeah.
And then you have the waters that she finds that actually purify the forest, and there might be a way forward for humans to either purify the jungle or find a way to coexist with it. and all that happens, you're like, I'm only half an hour into the movie. Like, we haven't even gotten to conflict yet.
Right.
We haven't even gotten to the power players, or who, and like the warriors kept coming in and out. Like, I would completely forget about them, and then it's like, oh wait, they have one,
Yeah.
and that's gonna come into play later, and so there's just a lot crammed in to 2 hours.
There is. It does a lot of heavy lifting, even in the opening. Because during the opening credits, it's giving you this almost cave painting montage of building these nuclear warriors, them destroying the world, and then some of the prophecies and related fallout to rebuild the world after that. So even in something as simple as the opening credits, it's doing world building, it's doing the themes, it's setting up characters, um, and payoffs that'll happen at the end of the film. I think I think the film does it very well. I will say there are a lot of portions of this film where characters are explaining things
Yes.
very quickly,
Yes.
oftentimes out loud, especially with Nausicaa. There's a lot of scenes of her by herself, especially towards the beginning of the film, and she just talks to herself, talks out loud, and they're not the kind of things that anybody would reasonably say to
Well,
themselves. I think it's not a problem.
right.
What I do think it shows more so is somebody's first major uh, directing experience.
Yeah, sure.
I think you're trying to, especially. I'm not sure how long the manga is, but there's always a battle with adaptation of like, well, how much do you put in? How much time do you have?
Well, and I think it was.
It's a fight.
I read somewhere it's fairly long,
Okay.
and he decided to focus on this part of the story,
That would make
specifically the
sense.
Valley of the Wind,
Hmm.
or specifically Nausicaa. I can't remember where I saw that.
Hmm.
Oh, there was only 16 chapters of the manga to work with. He encountered difficulties in creating the screenplay.
Hmm.
He took elements of the story and refocused the narrative and characters on the invasion itself.
Okay.
This is Wikipedia, so I got no clue. But it makes sense that if your manga
Yes.
isn't complete yet, and you still may not know where you're actually taking the broad story,
Hmm.
it makes sense to be like, I have so much here. Let's just focus on the invasion
Yeah.
itself, and there's enough there to have a complete story.
I know that Super Eye Patch Wolf has a good video on the film Akira. It was a similar situation where the guy starts writing the manga, he directs the film adaptation, and then he finishes the manga. So the film is this weird composite between the story as it was in the published manga and where the story was going. So he's kind of testing out the ending to the film. And so if you watch that film, it also crams a lot into a very small period of time. And most of the film is explaining things.
Right.
Again, not a bad thing.
Well, and whenever
But
I first,
it's a byproduct of, I think, the adaptation.
that was one of the first things I had noticed, that she's explaining a lot.
Yes.
And then I framed it in, because I couldn't tell if she was talking out loud or not with the mask on.
Mm.
But if you frame it as inner dialogue, it kind of, it's not as, it just came across as lazy to me.
Mm.
But if you frame it that way, it's like, well, she's talking to herself. So like stating
Yeah.
facts, like this is the first time she's telling somebody, it's like, well, you're just running through facts over in your head.
But I don't think they're necessarily. This might be a localization specific issue. I don't think it's necessarily the way you'd think about it. Like if I was driving around a city, I probably wouldn't think something along the lines of, oh, it's so nice that we're able to drive around in these gasoline powered automobiles in our post industrial, service heavy American economy.
You're telling me you couldn't have that epiphany sometime where you're driving and you're like,
could.
wait a second, this is insane.
But it's this instinctual reflection on like, how did I get here? How did our society?
Right.
What were the key industrial and socio-political building blocks that led to this moment in time? We don't tend to think about it that way.
No,
We tend
not
to think like,
always.
this is the highway, these are the trees, this is my house. If you ask the average person, like, hey, is it what are some important developments in history? They probably wouldn't say things like, the cotton gin or the steam engine. It's like those technological innovations are really important to the development of society. we don't tend to think about him. Whereas in something like the opening monologue that she's having with herself in the toxic forest, she knows everything. And a
Well,
lot of the characters know things. They're like, oh yeah, the 7 days of fire 1,000 years ago that blew up the world. It's like I don't think I could find 5 people out on the street that could tell
yeah,
me
yeah,
important historical facts from 1,000 years ago.
but
Even if it was the apocalypse,
it's the
I think it'd be a
apocalypse.
struggle.
The
think it'd be a
society
struggle.
is completely different, though.
It is.
It's entirely different. And like whenever she cuts off one of the eyeballs of the shell,
Yes.
and she's like, "Ooh, this is really light." Like that's something you could think about. Like
Yeah.
subconscious, you wouldn't say that out loud, but there are some things that she's saying that it's like, she could be just talking to herself subconsciously. She's by herself. Who knows for how long she's been by herself? She's just thinking in thought. And
I think sometimes it's fine. Other
Yeah.
times it's like you wouldn't say that. You would not say that.
no, yeah,
I
there is
think
a
of
lot. It's
her
a
at
lot.
the end of the film. She's pushing. This is a spoiler for late in the film. If you're here for some reason, you're expecting to go through the story chronologically for the first time.
40
which is a
years
bad
later.
idea. But there's a part at the end where she's like trying to save the ohm from the acid, and she's like, "Don't step into the water. It's acid water." Yeah, and then she steps into it and immediately just starts to burn her leg, and she screams. And it's like that was enough to show me, oh, it's acid water.
Well, unless you
We don't
didn't
need
tell
the
the
line
audience.
right beforehand.
Yeah.
Just let it happen. Let it play out on
I
screen.
think they mentioned it one other time.
Okay, it's acid water. I can tell because of the sizzling sound and the
Yeah.
scream of agony. It's like sometimes there's bits like that in the film where it's like,
Okay.
this speaks for itself. I do not need dialogue telling me that this is what's happening. It's not everything, but it's maybe 40% of the exposition in the film.
That is true.
At least in my view. It's like we could have communicated this without words.
Whenever she whenever she talks, it sounds like she's informing the audience and not talking to a character.
Yes. That's part of it,
And-
I guess.
and-
It's just
and-
not embedded in the world.
It seems like that was her utility for some of what she was doing.
Yeah.
Like whenever she
parts-
commented on the aggressiveness of the insects and the facts when she's talking to the princess while she has the gun drawn in the toxic jungle, like a lot of it was like, oh, you're telling me something.
Right.
Like these guys know all this stuff.
There's bits of it that work really well.
Yeah.
Like when she is talking with the other princess in the jungle and she's like, hey, you shouldn't shoot your gun or it'll attract all the insects to us. Because it communicates, this asymmetry of experience with the toxic jungle and the insects in it. It's like, oh, she knows a lot about it. This other princess doesn't. She's probably pampered, probably a bit out of touch. There's bits of the film later where it's like she was mauled by insects. And so it's like, well, maybe the enemy princess should really know not to shoot the gun. But at least if we take that scene on its own, it's like you can draw a clear distinction between them. I think there's also bits of the film that work really well where there's no exposition. Like where she walks in to the castle and finds out that her dad is killed. There's not a line where she's like, oh, you must have killed him because he was standing up to you and you needed to take over the town and use it to reclaim your wreckage. It's like that would have killed the scene. What it is she walks into the room, she sees his body on the floor, she screams, and she attacks him. Way more effective than so many of these scenes that are her talking.
Yeah.
It's not, we're making it sound like it ruins
No,
the film. This is film crammed so much into its 2 hours.
Well, and then like I don't want to.
It's tough.
I don't want to jump to the ending, but I might jump to the ending a little bit
That's fine.
because what the two nations
Yes.
that are kind of vying for the valley and more importantly the warrior,
Yeah.
like whenever they come in and just kill her dad, and then they don't do another, like the people in the valley. They're debating on, do we attack the villagers who are still there? The villagers rise up, and so they're debating on, do we attack them? Do we not attack them?
Yeah.
And then the princess says, we're not going to attack them. And then she stands and stares in a field, and then she goes, no, we're going to attack them now. I'm like, there's ways to do that, but literally the shot is the guy sitting there waiting, and then she stands there, no movement, because there's no wind. And she's just like, okay, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
I changed my mind. And it's just
It works
abrupt.
a little bit.
And
Yeah.
then at the end of the movie, nothing is resolved. Nothing nothing world changing
You're
happens.
gonna
Like
like
the
these films.
okay.
You're gonna like these films.
Like I guess I mean, okay.
Nothing world changing happens. What do you mean?
The toxic jungle is still there.
Yeah.
The Valley of the Wind is still there.
Yes.
The two nations are still there.
Yeah.
And it's implied that was it Tolmedia?
Oh,
Tol,
Talmesia.
yeah.
There's Talmesia, which is the aggressive conquering nation, and then there's Pegite, which is the one that they stole the atomic creature from, and Pegite is the one with the harebrained scheme to string up the baby Ohm and drive it around as a beacon for Ohm stampedes into
Right.
its enemy neighbors.
And so they stay, the Tolmecia? Is that how you say it? Tolmecia?
I think Talmesians.
Talmesians? The
Talmecia.
Talmesians stay and help them rebuild, I think is what's kind of implied
Mm,
with the kind of the way that they work together there.
yeah.
But what happened at that city again? I was not tracking.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they go to the desert, a desert area, and they see a city in flames.
Mm.
And I'm imagining it's the what are they called? The other nation? Pejite?
Yeah, Pegite.
Yeah. Like the Pejite capital?
Yes.
And then it was overrun by insects.
Yeah.
But then the Pejites lured them there? Or the Talmesians lured them there, and then now the Pejites are trying to lure them.
So the Pegites,
So-
it's a byproduct of them with the baby Ohm scheme, because they're just using it as like a beacon for the Ohms. So it's kind of it's twofold, because it's like they destroyed their own kingdom in the process of doing the scheme.
Okay, so it was them both times.
It was them both times.
Yeah.
And then they have all their people, or a lot of their people, on the ship, the airship, and so a lot of them survived, and then they're planning on using it as a weapon against the Talmekians, and it's just their hubris.
Yes.
This
yes.
society destroys itself in every way that matters, to get one over on their enemies.
So at the end of the movie, with Nausicaä and what she does, she stops the Ohms from killing everybody on the beach, and she dies, or passes out, or whatever happens, and then they
Yeah.
resurrect her or whatever. Is that implied that there's harmony now?
Yeah. That's the
Everything's chill.
Well, no,
We're all fine.
That's the big change. That's the big thing that happens. It's humanity.
We're dealing with humans
Yes.
that
yes.
created walking nuclear weapons.
But this generation, all of the leaders of all of the three kingdoms have learned their lesson.
Well, the princess of the Talmesians
yes.
learned it.
Yeah.
She reports to somebody else.
That's true.
That's what she talks about
true.
constantly. Do I report? Do I not?
But
Do I go back
you
or
get
do
the
I not?
impression that she can pull some strings.
She's the heir, at least.
Yeah.
You would, I mean, presumed, just like Nausicaä.
Yeah. It's something where it's like, oh, they're probably going to be able to pull this off and create a better world moving forward.
So then what do we think happens? Do we think that they purify the toxic jungle? Do we think that they leave it there?
I think that they learn to live in harmony with it.
Okay.
And that there's a progressive process of purification. I think we see that with the toxic jungle. It's toxic, they can't breathe in the fumes, but then they go under it and they realize that it's purifying itself. So it's almost like the nuclear war, the 7 days of fire. It wiped out a lot of the existing ecosystems, and now the planet has kind of responded with these ohms, and it's the ohms, they live, they protect the toxic jungle. When they die, their shells create new seeds for the toxic jungle, and then we get the sense that the toxic jungle creates new life. There's all these bugs and insects within it, and then there's the purification under the toxic jungle, so it's kind of is presumably a long-term correction to the devastation that humanity wreaked on the ecosystem. And you assume, once it's purified, then the purified air, the purified trees, the purified plants will grow, and that the earth will get some kind of normal, balanced ecosystem again. That's the assumption, at least. And I think that with Nausicaä, it's kind of just humanity grappling with what is the proper relationship between humanity and nature. Is it something for us to dominate and turn into weapons via the atomic creature or the baby Ohm and the Ohm Stampede, or even just something like the airships. It's like, well, what's the role of technology in nature? Is it something to dominate and used to conquer others and manipulate governments? Or is it something where we can live in harmony with it? We live in the valley of the wind because the wind keeps the spores away. We build windmills because there's wind. We plant gardens with tropical um, plants because that's what the environment allows for. The people of the Valley of the Wind, they are playing with the hand that they're dealt. Whereas the Talmetians are like, yeah, we're going to fly across the kingdoms and steal the armored warrior
In
and
ships made out of paper.
yeah, and drag it all the way back to our
And
kingdom, and then they're going to be our gigantic stone soldier and blow up other countries' paper ships.
yeah, and so both empires are they show humans hubris and pride because they thought they could
Yeah.
carry it all the way back home, and then they crash because it was too heavy, and
Right.
and the
Well, and the insects have attacked them as well.
that's the other thing. Yeah,
So you get the sense that there's some level of awareness on the part of the insects that would be a bad idea. So again, it's nature as kind of a correcting force on human hubris. I don't know. I mean, you leave the film with the idea that you've learned their lesson, that humanity, they know better. They also probably should have known better after the 7 days of fire.
yeah.
Hey, we blew up the world. It's like, that's probably all the lesson you need, man. But it's a Japanese story. So there's a divide there in how Americans and Japanese see nuclear weapons for very obvious reasons. They tend to tell a lot of stories set after the devastation has happened, really focusing on, well, how do you rebuild? What does it do to society? How do we find a healthy balance from here? You see that with Akira that I mentioned earlier. It opens with a devastation, like a nuclear blast essentially in Japan. And then the story is just grappling with that long term. Yeah, I mean, you see it in all sorts of I mean, even something as similar as Godzilla. It's the nuclear waste creates a gigantic monster that destroys cities. Whereas in an American story, radiation tends to give us things like the Fantastic Four, superheroes versus monsters. There's a divide there. I guess even something like Breath of the Wild, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. This idea that there was a devastating attack that happened forever ago. How do we rebuild now?
Yeah.
That's a very common theme. It's more pertinent to, I think, the Japanese national identity than the American one.
Well, and this was also created during the Cold War.
Yes.
It was at the end of the Cold War, but I wonder how much of that had an impact,
So
if anything, because you got the two
yeah.
empires and you got people
Yes.
crushed in the middle.
That's a good take.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I can kind of guess who I think would be who, but
Really?
but yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much that impacted it or not.
So
but
there's an interesting addendum to that is pertinent to your take. This is the story that made Miyazaki stop identifying as a communist.
really,
This is the one.
so he was a communist.
According to him,
Self-described.
he's a self-described communist. He says, if I'm remembering correctly, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I remember this, and I checked up on it a little bit just to make sure that I was generally true. He describes himself as a communist, but then in the process of creating Nausicaä, one of the things he realized was that Nausicaä was a good person, capable of doing good to others, regardless of her status as somebody in a privileged class.
She never acts it like it.
Never.
Ever.
And so that was part of Miyazaki's journey of self-discovery of, hey, she might be part of the privileged class. She's a literal princess. Once her dad is killed, she's, for all intents and purposes, the ruler of the Valley of the Wind. But she doesn't wear a crown. She doesn't lord it over people. So this idea that somebody could be born into a privileged class and still come out of it an ethical person, intent on serving others, intent on advancing their needs, it was something that made him question his own ideas about class. In the Marxist conception of like class struggle, of like you have these two opposing, you have the top and the bottom of society, and they're diametrically opposed. His experience writing this story, in which somebody from a privileged class was a good person and devoted themselves to serving the lower classes at all costs, it changed his political views considerably. So I think that there probably is an element of Cold War in there. But also, this film, it ends with them in a feudal state still. There's no idea that they're going to reindustrialize in mass. They have these airships. They're impressive. Absolutely. But you also get the sense that they have to learn to live with nature in harmony, and that probably is going to look more like Nausicaa than the Talmekians. So I think that's an interesting angle to view the film through. It's skeptical of reindustrializing human society.
Well, and I think it's interesting whenever we were talking about how the movie explains more than it shows sometimes. Their fixation on technology,
Yeah.
whenever they're explaining how technology works or whatever, is because they're living in a world that has been deindustrialized.
Yes.
So whenever they're explaining how things work or they're emphasizing it or they're using it, like that is important and symbolic in and of itself.
Yeah.
They kept tanks, they have guns, they have weapons.
But
they have
also
they have
medieval weaponry and these swords. Like, so it's a balance between
it's a
the
balance,
two.
but the only technology that they seem to be concerned with keeping is weapons of war.
Yes.
And means, not to better people's lives,
Yeah.
but to pursue empire and the same things that got them in the situation in the first place.
At no point in the film do we see like a tractor.
No.
We see a lot of people
They send out
working in
kids
the
to go
field.
find the lethal spores.
Right.
That's a choice.
And they have like flamethrowers to burn the spores. They do have these gliders, but like Lord Yupa, he has the face mask, which is filtering out these particles, these toxic spores. But
They do have those.
He's riding like an ostrich-looking thing through the wasteland. So it's a world in which they have technology, but they don't have a lot of technology. They have one gunship, and it's like a small fighter jet essentially in the Valley of the Wind. It's like they have one for a kingdom. They're a pretty poor kingdom. They're a pretty small kingdom. And the Talmekians, they have these gigantic airships that get blown up when you shoot it once or twice. They're fragile. It's imposing. But even the Talmekians, they have these tanks that are easily destroyed. They have these suits of armor. Most of them have swords. So it's like, can they not make enough guns? Can they not make a whole lot of these? Can they not make stronger ships?
Well, it's like in the
There's
weird
limits to their technology.
Yeah, it's like the weird later days of the medieval era. Whenever you start getting in gunpowder
yes,
weapons and stuff, where you have battles with guns and cavalry and like lances and swords and everything.
Yeah.
So it is cool to see whenever they do that, but they also have tanks and airships.
Right.
So it does, they emphasize scarcity a lot.
And it is tough to say a little bit. I think one thing that this film does that's a bit unconventional is that you don't really visit any of the opposite kingdoms.
No.
You're really rooted in the Valley of the Wind and or the Toxic Forest.
You see the ruins of one.
Yeah.
But you don't get a good idea about the culture necessarily.
What were they like?
Yeah.
Did they have industry? Did they have merchants? Did they have like traveling bands that they sent to other kingdoms? What does Talmekia look like? Do they have skyscrapers? Do they have paved roads?
But they show you so much.
What does that look like?
They show you so much about the two empires.
Yeah.
Because you have the Talmesians who are supposed to be the warrior empire, the war empire. And then a single gunship takes down 4 of their massive carriers.
Right.
Because they are building quantity instead of quality, and they're all falling apart. But they are so proud to be this warrior kingdom.
Yeah.
And then the fact that one gunship was able to take out all those tells you a lot about the other kingdom. And so they communicate a lot without actually taking you to these places.
They do.
Like they send the princess, but you have no clue what the power structure is like back home. You only get what they give you.
Yeah.
And it works. So because that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is you have these two kingdoms, and these people are unfortunately caught in between. And the point is, what do those people do?
I think that also, like you were saying, with the late Cold War perspective, I think it's an interesting way to view the film as kind of not an analogy, but as sort of an exploration, I guess, of what countries do in that position. What were the options viable to some of these third world countries in the Cold War? You're caught between these two superpowers, these two empires, testing out super weapons. that they might use against one another.
On your soil.
Yeah, testing it on your soil. They're fighting on your soil.
They're taking your resources.
Their diplomatic incidents are spilling across your borders.
Mhm.
You know, you have your own environmental issues, you have your own industrial issues, you have your own power structures, your own society you're dealing with. How do you respond to being caught in the middle of all this? I think the answer that it gives is, you know, maybe unsatisfactory. Appeal to their moral sensibilities and don't die when they come at you with superior weapons. It's like, well, that's not really a great, you know, you can't use this as a manual if you're leading a third world government
But it
stuck
almost,
between the two empires.
and I'm fine if that's where the Cold War uh, comparison ends.
Yeah.
Because if the point is, if we keep going down this path as the human race, this is where we're going to end up.
Yes.
You know, thinking about the nuclear annihilation.
Mm.
At that point, if you're talking about the real world, it doesn't matter what the people in between do.
Yeah,
Because if the two world powers launch nuclear weapons at each other, it's over.
it's true.
So it's kind of a weird thing to you end the movie in the most optimistic way possible while saying that this is incredibly unlikely. What's more likely is these people in the middle are going to be crushed
Yeah.
and then everyone's going to die if we don't find an off-ramp here.
Unless
And
we
not
can
just with
find a way
nuclear
to
war.
live in harmony with nature and with each other.
Yes.
I think that's the thesis of the
that's
film.
probably it. That's it.
It is a post-apocalyptic story, so there is that pessimism to it. I think that's, you know, kind of sets the boundaries of the moral and political explorations. This is what happens if we mess everything up. Are we going to mess it up again? I think that's a productive way of viewing the film.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was I really enjoyed watching this movie. So is there anything else you wanna say, comment on?
Oh, there's a
Any
couple
sort of
other
notes?
things. I think after so many of the films that we've done, you know, everything from Elf to Rocky, it was really nice to have a film that was normal about women. It's so nice. It was so nice.
That is so true.
Yeah, Miyazaki is
That
just
is
like, yeah, they're
so
humans
true.
in this one. Sorry, guys.
They do things.
Yeah.
They do women do things. They are part of society. They have impact.
There's more than one female character.
Yes, named.
They talk to each other sometimes.
They do.
It's insane, dude. Miyazaki, one common thread he has throughout his work is that he is a feminist. It shows in his work. It is incredibly refreshing.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the reason that the Studio Ghibli movies have found wider mainstream success than some of the more unhinged fan servicey anime projects. I'm not dunking on an entire country's animation. I am saying you can tell when something is not made by a feminist in Japan, which is most things made in Japan. And this type of work is far superior to it in every conceivable metric. You have Nausicaä, you have the Talmekian princess, you have the two Pejite princesses. They don't have a lot of screen time, but you do have them. You have Baba, who is the wise woman of the Valley of the Wind. You just have miscellaneous farmers, miscellaneous workers and families with the Pejite crew. It is so refreshing to have a story where there are a lot of female characters. They have a variety of roles. They come from a variety of classes and kingdoms. They talk to each other. They have different perspectives on the world. You know, we talked a little bit about Nausicaa having the standoff with the Talmesian princess in the toxic forest. She has this more aggressive, we're going to destroy the toxic forest. We're going to use the atomic creature to blow it up and create a new strong kingdom for humanity. Nausicaa wants to find ways to live in balance with it. So they have these opposing philosophies. They're in equivalent positions, especially at the beginning of the film. Because, right, they're both under somebody. But then once Nausicaa's dad is killed, she's de facto the leader. The Talmekian princess starts acting on her own as if she's unaccountable to anyone. So you even see differences in their philosophies towards authority, autonomy.
Well, and I really like that because
So
the princess, the Talmekian princess, they're hyper fixated on authority, and that's, you know, her second in command is really the one who like emphasizes that for her.
Yeah.
Like she's in charge, but he's, you know, fantasizing about him being in charge and him being the hero and being written about for years to come.
Yeah.
Whereas Nausicaa, the people around her also prop up her authority. But she uses it way differently. They're the ones who
Yeah.
keep reminding her, oh, the princess said this, the princess said that. We're going to do whatever the princess says.
Hmm.
And she never, like, she tells them what to do, but it's from a place of authority because she knows what to do in the toxic jungle.
Yeah.
Um,
Hers is rooted in competence.
yes.
You see the Talmekian princess just do fumble after fumble. She gets
Change her
everybody
mind on a whim.
killed.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yeah.
She kills like 4 airships worth of people. Like it's nothing. And then she goes back and she orders the atomic creature to blow up the ohms, and it works horribly. The atomic creature is dead because of her. So she squanders her national, nuclear project
Yeah.
by being hasty. She was about to get them all killed. Horrible, incompetent from start to finish.
Right.
And her subordinates, yeah, they fantasize about usurping her, about taking her place. Whereas the men of the village, they're like, oh yeah, the princess, she comes back for us when we're lost in the toxic forest.
Mm-hmm.
She saves our lives. She's good at what she does. She knows how to talk to the forest. She knows how to work the glider. She knows to get us resources that we need to keep society functioning.
Well, the only thing that they say almost
Really, there's this. She serves the people.
Yes. Yeah. And the only thing that they do that kind of chides her is like, oh, we wish you wouldn't go to the jungle because it's dangerous.
Right.
That's the only time that they almost chide her.
You're too
Yes.
noble. You're too selfless.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And something else, like, is it unsatisfying that at the end of the movie, none of the villains get their just desserts? That's a point he's trying to make in and of itself.
Yeah.
That we have to reconcile together. It's not about them, what they did, a week ago or what they did a week ago. Like, that's not going to solve any of our problems. But it was kind of like whenever they kind of rammed all those people and all those people got buried underneath rubble, I'm like, oh, someone's got to die here. Like, but then no,
Right.
like the guy who got crushed by one of the trilobites or whatever, or the ohms, he just crawls out. I'm like, him of all people. I mean, come on. Like, him of all people. Like,
it is. We'll see this more as we go through the films. I don't want to talk about the other films too
sure,
much.
sure.
He does have this recurring motif in which there is a distant supreme authority, and there are the local servants that do horrible things and pretty much get off scot-free. I think it's a theme he explores oftentimes of just authority and justice. I think Miyazaki seems to take a pessimistic view of justice, in which people do bad things and get away with it pretty frequently.
Well, and then the main characters just have to move on.
Yeah.
Nausicaa just moves on.
Yeah. Oh, you killed my
She-
dad.
Yeah, like
I have to move on.
I have to move on, and I'm gonna go out of my way to try to incorporate you best I can.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna have to do this for the betterment of society.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, it was just something I noticed that's different than in other movies where like, no, the villain gets what's coming to them,
Yes.
and it doesn't happen here.
It really doesn't. It doesn't
After
in
a
a lot
certain
of
point.
Studio Ghibli movies. I struggle to think of any movies where that happens significantly, to be honest.
Really? I
We'll
mean, it's
see.
new. I mean, that's different than a lot of the American movies that are made.
Yeah.
Where you just can't wait for the villain to get what's coming to him. But in this movie, like I read somewhere that someone had written that there's nobody truly evil in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, they do kill her dad, but that's
Yeah.
But like on the whole, by the end of it, it's like, well, she unleashes the nuclear weapon against the creatures that are going to come overrun everybody, and that's what she thinks is best.
And she does it for
Given the
humanity.
culture that given the culture she comes from, she thinks
Right.
of, I'm not peace, war, and
War for the sake of long-term
of peace, war for the sake of peace.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Gotta justify it.
You have to.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
oh no, I really like this movie.
Do you think that Nausicaa is a bit of a Mary Sue?
I think that Mary Sues are a problem because there's just too many of them. And I think Nausicaa is because it's a trope. That's what makes it the problem. Is that something it becomes annoying and it becomes lazy whenever it's done too many times.
Yeah.
And Mary Sue isn't necessarily a problem. It's just whenever you keep falling back on that. And you just do it, and the story that you create around that Mary Sue character doesn't support her.
Okay.
So like Ray in the sequel trilogy of Star Wars is annoying as a Mary Sue.
Mhm.
It doesn't work because the story you've created around her, one, she wasn't what people were expecting to go see in those movies, but that's another conversation.
Yes, it is.
But they didn't do anything around her to enable her to be a Mary Sue, because in this world, Nausicaa is so pure.
Mm.
In a world that's falling apart, in a world that humans destroyed, and the humans are eating each other alive,
Mm.
and all this stuff, and she brings the reconciliation. You need her to be that,
Yeah.
because it's her persistent optimism and finding the best in people, the best in creatures. She is horrified at herself whenever she kills those people, right?
She does.
Yeah. I couldn't tell, but
it's really her one flaw or her one moment of growth. She kills all the guys that killed her dad.
yeah, it's a moment of
in
growth.
rage.
Yeah,
She feels bad about it later.
Yeah, and she feels bad about it.
And then she doesn't kill anybody again. And she commits herself to nonviolence, not even killing the two guys who are stringing up the baby Ohm as like this torture beacon at the end of the film. She doesn't kill them.
No, she could have,
but she doesn't.
She fires the gun at them.
Well,
and she is,
but
she's holding that machine gun. And she's like, "You need to do exactly what I tell you."
But she doesn't kill them.
No, because they
growth.
comply.
It's growth.
Yeah,
it's growth.
Yeah, and it's growth. Yeah, I mean,
but that's her one piece of growth. I think it works for the film, especially because she's the princess. She's the only heir. Totally makes sense why she would be aggressively focused on being as competent as possible at everything. So knowledge of the forest and knowledge of the people. I totally buy that somebody in that position with those resources would develop that skill set.
Yeah, absolutely.
That made it work for me.
Well, and the people that support her, like it just it's revealing of her character that they're the ones constantly propping her up as this perfect princess.
Yeah.
And perfect leader.
Yes.
And so, and there's the whole prophecy thing too.
Yeah.
So you got that as an added element in there, where it's like, okay, she was prophesied to come, and they thought it was a man, but it was actually, it was actually her. And so
it's a good feminist subversion,
right,
of the male prophecy. This guy's gonna come save us, and it's the princess.
Well, and it was done really well.
It was.
Like her dress gets covered in blood, and so that's what turns it blue, and she's in a golden field.
Right.
So yeah, that was done really well.
Yeah.
But I think her being a Mary Sue in this movie, because of everything they did to support her and to highlight that, is what makes her important.
Yeah.
Rey being a Mary Sue, they didn't set it up to where that is what made her so important.
Yeah.
And why we needed her. But there's other Mary Sues too.
Yes.
But
it's a trope.
But at some point, like, does that mean Mary Sue's? Yeah, like her Mary Sue's just unacceptable altogether. It's like, well, I don't know about that. I think some stories, if you do it well, like in this movie, it's not a problem for me in this movie. He did a really good job.
I will say, I think it's interesting. There are other films that deal with kind of like these complex ideas of how do we relate to the environment? How should we industrialize responsibly? I think something like Princess Mononoke, which he does later, it kind of reflects some more nuance towards those ideas, right? Towards like industry and the environment, and I guess kind of the Mary Sue trope. Well, I think he does a really good job in this film. I also think that he kind of continues to develop these ideas in his filmography. I'll be more interested to talk about what he does in those films when we're actually talking about the films.
Yeah.
But I think he does a really good job in this film, and then he continues to build on it throughout his career.
Well, and I'm excited to see how he grows.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about, and being able to, go back and think about, oh, this is how he dealt with this specific theme and topic.
Yes.
Back in Nausicaä of the Wind, 10, 15 years before this, or, whatever the timeline is.
You get a lot less exposition in his later works.
Yeah,
I think
a lot more showing instead of telling.
Yes. Well, maybe even too much showing.
Oh, okay. Is it almost like getting to like ethereal sometimes, where it's like, I don't know, like a dream type of situation?
The Boy and the Heron, I think, well, currently it's his last film. I think he's developing another one. I think it's his like last 2 or 3 films have been his last film. But the Boy and the Heron is like that, where it's dreamlike. It has these elements to it where it's tough to tell what's real and what's going on or what the point of something is. So he definitely gets there. I think it takes courage to leave it up to the audience, to trust them, to understand it, or to sit with that confusion.
Yeah.
I think this film, the Cold War comparison definitely dates it to the 80s.
Yeah.
I think what also does is the repeated synth solos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Repeated,
Right.
repeated throughout the film. I think
Yeah.
there's like 8 of them where just the dialogue stops and somebody goes crazy on the
On the
synth.
Yes. There's one. I can't remember what scene it was, but there was a scene where the synth came in, and I was like, I don't want to say this doesn't work, but this was not what I was expecting.
Pretty much every time the Ohm stampede, every time there's like a needle drop moment, it's just put somebody on the synthesizer.
Like, it's just like
Have them play for 20 seconds and then fade out.
it's like this
It's so
completely shifts.
cool.
Like I start
so
feeling
cool.
I start feeling something, and then the synth makes me feel something different entirely. It's kind of like in Tron, the very first Tron,
Yeah,
where like
yeah.
like just the visuals and the music, just like I don't know, it makes you feel some sort of way.
It's the beautiful thing about
But
films. They make you feel
some
certain ways.
some sort of way, yes, in one way or another.
I think one last thing I can really think of with this movie. This movie, so it was adapted into English, and they didn't do a very good job. They changed character names. I don't think it was acted very well. And then they readapted it into English. And
That was
that's
Disney, right?
yes. And so you recognize some of the Disney voice actors. If when we go through the filmography, you can sometimes tell like, "Oh, that's the voice of Pete." Or like, "Oh, that's this famous Disney voice actor." You know, and you can you can hear sometimes in the adaptation that Disney does. Um the adaptation that we watched, the one that everybody's actually seen, the good one, is the one where they call her Nausicaa, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can tell which one you're watching. But the cast in this is astonishing. Patrick Stewart is in this as Lord Yupa. Shia LaBeouf plays the kid.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. That's crazy.
Mark Hamill, he plays the like king of Pejite.
The mayor or whatever.
Yeah, the ruler, whatever he is.
Yeah, I can't remember what they call him.
Mark Hamill is in this film for like 2 minutes.
Is he in a few of them?
He's in a few of them.
Few of the.
He plays the main villain in Castle in the Sky.
Oh, that's the next one, right?
I think so, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think yeah.
Castle in the Sky, he plays the main villain in that.
Nice.
I think he pops up in 1 or 2 others. I'm not sure.
Dude, this is like right at. Well, never mind. Never mind. I'm getting my dates wrong. Anyway,
it's an interesting cast. Patrick Stewart and Mark Hamill are the 2 big ones for me.
yes.
Like, wow, they really went for it. They continue to get good actors, good professional actors to play these minor voice actor roles.
Well, then for me, like I
for
think
some
of
reason.
because I'm so Clone Wars pilled, I see James Arnold Taylor.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, it's like Patrick Stewart, yeah. But yeah, Uma Thurman, whatever.
Right.
James Arnold Taylor. Anyway.
Is there anything else you want to say about this film?
No, this may be my first 10 out of 10.
Really?
It's either 9 or 10, and I can't figure out which.
Okay.
Like I don't know. I don't have anything majorly wrong with it.
I don't either. The exposition's a lot. I'm willing to forgive it. It's a first-time director.
It's a 9.
Really.
I think you're right because my initial gut reaction was we're hearing too much.
Yeah.
We're being explained and talked at too much. But then I was like, well, is it just like inner dialogue? Is it? And then at the end, like I get the messaging and everything, but then in my brain I'm thinking like, yeah, but what about the inner, the geopolitical implications of these two kingdoms? What are they going to do with this toxic jungle and their technological advancement? What are they going to do differently as they advance again and industrialize again? Do they industrialize again?
Right.
Whatever they decide to do. And I think that's a good sign because that means I wanted more.
Yeah.
And he created this world that I was invested.
Oh, for sure.
I was like, I want to know what's going to happen to these creatures, to the 3 different key places that we saw in the peoples and everything. So I don't think that's a flaw. It just means that I wanted more, and that's totally fine, and that's a good sign.
Oh, absolutely.
But no, I think it's going to be a 9 out of 10 for me.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 as well. The cast does their best. They're killing it. The story is good. The themes are good. The world is interesting. I mean, it really is a fascinating world. It's one of the most unique that I've ever had the pleasure of stepping into. And the artwork. It's a gorgeous film. There's so many different insects. The color work is beautiful. It plays a lot with lighting. When the explosions happen or in these storms, when they open the doors, there's color rushing in. When it's night and everything takes on kind of this muted, um, minimal aesthetic where everything's kind of the same shade of gray.
Yeah.
So much of this film is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the music's fun. It's fun 80s.
It's fun. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any complaints about that.
Oh, no. I like it. It's
Yeah.
a really good film. All of it is so strong. It is astonishing to think that this is his first project that he owns from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's great work. It's the start of a very, very good career, and I'm excited to talk about his next film.
Yeah. No, 9 out of 10. That's where we're putting this one. So, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and suggest any other movies that you'd like us to discuss. And we'll see you
Yes.
next time.